The market conditions are changing constantly and at an accelerating pace. The question is how to stay on top and how to stay ahead with your recruiting activities. Our topic today will be about the key enablers and some scenarios about innovation in recruiting in this year and the next coming years. So let's make no mistake about it. The topic here is really about innovation and also some technology. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is how can you spend more face time with the people that you are working with the new candidates, employees, your top talents, and the business partners. So for example, if you are an HR business partner, how do you spend more quality time about the topics that really have an impact for the business? Now, what I have in mind today is talk a little bit about the pain points that we find in recruiting scenarios, then talk about some of the key enabler of innovation, and also outline some of the performance potential and the scenarios that we find in innovation. And then, of course, I will then lead into a discussion about how to approach the topic and where to look for more information. Now, again, let's step back. It's not only about innovation in recruiting in terms of the time that we spend with people, but also if we go one level deeper, we also have to consider other factors. For example, quality. How do we find better candidates? How do we provide a better candidate experience? And how can we reduce the risk of a wrong hire? A wrong hire in any organization can have a big impact, also a big cost impact in the organization, and also a productivity impact, and it can also influence the morale of the workforce, for example. Second key point is about agility. So how can we find and hire and onboard people at a faster rate? Rate always means here more talents per month starting to become productive in our organization. Now, that also brings us to the other point about shortening the time to productivity. When we bring somebody into a new organization, they have to learn about it, get up to speed, get their equipment, get trained, etc. So how can we accelerate that process? And then last but not least, it's also about efficiency. Not only about the cost per hire, which can be very substantial depending on the role and industry you're recruiting in, but it's also about shifting the resources towards the areas which make a high impact in our organization, in our business, and also for our employees, of course. Now, today I want to narrow it down on 3 key enabling technologies and trends for innovation which are impacting HR in many organizations. Not only the large and global organizations, they are predominantly, because there we typically talk about a fast and very extensive hiring, but also in small and medium-sized organizations. Now, the first area I want to call out is personalization. The second is about analytics and artificial intelligence. And the third area is about automation. Now, what does it mean? In terms of personalization, we talk here mostly about a customized experience in terms of the content that we provide, for example, on our website or during the interactions. But also the offers and the call to action that we present to people. So, and of course, the communication. So, for example, when two different people, 2 different personas are coming to our website, for example, an executive and a data scientist, they might look for different information. And the question is, how can we engage them in our company, in who we are as a company, and make it more attractive to explore more about the possibilities in our organization. The second area, artificial intelligence, is about assistance through algorithms. So this can be analytics, but it can also be artificial intelligence, for example. And that's a new technology which can help us tremendously in discovering new talent pools, selecting the right people, and also in terms of decision making and many other areas. One area I want to also call out a little bit later here is about the analytics. Now, with the newest approaches, we can find out what are really the key drivers why people come to our organization and stay in the organization, and what are the drivers of churn, dissatisfaction, and abandonment rates in our recruiting funnel, for example. And the third area is about technology enablement. Now, automation is not a new word. It has been around in many areas, many industries. But we need to ask, how can we use technology enablement to automate some of the tasks and processes which simply consume too much time that we need for other value-adding activities, such as person-to-person interaction, or developing new strategies and tactics, and also other areas in the workforce. Now, the question is, what are really the recruiting challenges and pain points that we see today? Now, let me call out some of the areas that I have come across in this work. And I want to dive into some of the details in terms of the first area, which is upstream in our process chain here. It's about resource planning or workforce planning. And the outcome of that is, of course, that we have a certain number of positions that we want to recruit for. Then second area is about sourcing. So the outcome of that is that we have candidates which come into the interview process. And the outcome of that, of course, would be to make offers and hire people and employees, which we then can onboard in the organization. Now, in these four areas, there are different challenges and pain points, and likewise, there's also different improvement potential. So, for example, in the area of workforce planning, what we typically see is an imbalance between positions that we need to recruit for, the candidates that we have in our pool. Sometimes we have too much candidates and not enough positions, then the candidates run away. Sometimes we have a big hiring challenge, need to fill a lot of positions in a short period of time, but then our candidate pool has evaporated because people are not just waiting for us until we are ready. They have other ideas and other aspirations, so that might leave us in a big challenge. But it's also about the ability to deliver. At the end of the day, everything is about delivering the right projects, taking on client projects, taking on products and services, and so on. And ability to deliver for you as a recruitment partner or HR business partner also means that you need to bring the candidates to the business so that they can start interviewing it. Second area about sourcing. Here, a key pain point that I often see is that the companies are simply not getting enough views on the offers, the position offers that they have out there. And subsequently, they're also not getting a sufficient high number of applications, and the abandonment rate is fairly high. Now, one thing that you can find actually when you take a look at some of these statistics is that most employers, and that's not surprising, they're not satisfied. They're very dissatisfied with the sheer volume of applications. Now, if you have, let's say, a position there and you get only one or two applications, that's not enough choice for most recruiting or hiring managers. On the other hand, we also need to keep in mind the candidate perspective. And what we hear from the candidates is that a lot of the candidates are actually abandoning the application process due to the poor user experience. So that's, again, is also a big potential. I talked a little bit about that in a different context when we talked about marketing strategies and tactics. That's also part of the series here. But today we talk more about the business model and process innovation. Now, when it comes to interviewing, a lot of companies are faced with a high effort to to screen the candidates, to get in touch with the candidates, to do the scheduling, etc. And of course, there is a big challenge with finding the right people, making the right decisions. So really understanding who is a great fit in the organization. And also we have to bring in candidates with the right profile, the right experience, the right quality for the position, for the organization. Now, again, the hiring manager side is very dissatisfied with the qualification of candidates. So again, we need to ask, how can innovation help us to reduce this dissatisfaction? And on the other side, the candidate experience tells us that a lot of people are dropping out of the interview process because they never hear back. They submit an application, they don't hear back. They have a first interview, nothing happens, waiting for an offer, waiting for a decision, etc. And that's a critical phase in the interview process where you have spent a lot of time, you've spent a lot of effort and money typically to bring the candidates in-house. Actually, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, about the true cost of hiring. And then when the candidates are running away, that's of course not a good experience. And then finally, the onboarding process, there's also a lot of potential in terms, for example, the time to productivity. So the time until it takes, until somebody is really productive. Satisfaction of the employees, and of course retention in the organization. Now, the question is, what are the scenarios if we bring these two dimensions together, our enabling innovation and technologies, and the pain points, the key process areas? So I just want to call out some examples, and I will speak about a little bit in a short while how to approach this topic. But what we typically find is in the area of workforce planning, the supply and demand models are a real key innovation here, so that we have a better model to forecast what's happening in the organization, what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening in our for example, service delivery chain, and how many people do we need when, by, in which locations. Now, the second area about sourcing, here in the area of personalization, we can deliver a lot of value by providing the right content and the communication to candidates. We can even think about using technologies like chatbots, for example, which have let's say, a learning capability to learn step by step what the candidates are looking for and how to guide them to the right information on our website, for example. Again, keep in mind the candidate experience is not that we post a job offering and then people just apply. They are usually going through the search engine, professional networks, social media to find for evidence, find for information why they should join your organization and what the real opportunities are and which position to apply for. So we have to guide them in a way and provide the information they're looking for. Then it's all about targeting. Now here is something that we can use right off the shelf when we, for example, take a look at the opportunities that we have with the digital marketing strategies. We're using a lot algorithms which help us target the right audience or lookalike audiences, for example. When we know what an ideal employee or colleague would look like, then we can feed that back into the search engines and look for more people like that. And of course, in terms of communication, here is where automation can help us a lot by simply providing automated information. If somebody is, let's say, entering the process of applying, we can provide step-by-step automated information so that people come prepared to the interview and have a better understanding of the organization and if it's a good position and organization, a good move for them. Now, the areas of interviews and making decisions, preparing offers, here we can do also a lot with status updates, but also providing let's say, somewhat of an automated process where people provide more information for the interview process, for example. And then artificial intelligence could help us in the area of screening. That's one area. Now, this is a very touchy point, which is discussed very widely right now. How far should you go, and what is really also an ethically prudent way of using technology? And of course, we can use analytics to get more insights, for example, from surveys. I still find a lot of companies who are not doing effective surveys in interviewing potential candidates, people who were in the interviews. And so they're not getting signals and feedback into the process. That's a big pain point, of course. And then in the area of onboarding, there are also many scenarios. Just to highlight a few areas, of course, the onboarding survey is a key point, but also procurement, self-help in order for people to get up to speed and find the right information, the right colleagues, the right processes to order their equipment, and so on. But also, we can provide a better experience by getting people trained in the organization in a way that they find the right information at their fingertips. Now, how to approach this innovation topic with organizations? Now, what I typically suggest is to enter into a discovery-driven process, an iterative process, where we first come together in a workshop and define what are really the specific pain points in your organization, in your specific industry, in your scenario. And out of that, we typically get performance scenarios and also ideas for candidates for projects that would be interesting for the organization. Now, what I find typically is the entry into the cycle is driven by two poles. One is it's opportunity driven, and the other one is a problem focus. So many companies say we don't really have a problem with the recruiting process, but what are the opportunities? How can we prepare ourselves for the future trends? And other organizations say we're bleeding a lot of candidates in our recruiting process. We have a high abandonment rate. People are not finding the information or they're not applying. So how can we fix that? Now, the next phase is about project definition, where we really go into more detail in terms of project planning and find out what is the specific contribution of an innovation project that we are looking at. And sometimes we have to go back to the drawing board because we discover something new and then figure out, okay, what are other performance scenarios that this organization should be looking at? Now, in the delivery phase, it's about implementing the processes, the solutions, but also it's about change management. Because with any innovation, any change, it's also about engaging people in the organization. If there's no motivation to adopt the innovation, then it's bound to fail. So change management is a key issue. And the fourth area is about optimization. So once we have the new capabilities, the question is, how do we embed that in our management system? And how do we wrap our management system around it? What are the KPIs that we need? How is our resource allocation decision process changing? And how can we optimize the processes in this value chain? So this is typically a 4-phase project, sometimes more, sometimes less elaborate than what I'm showing here, but this is typically a short roadmap what you can put in place. Now, there are tons of ideas and also successful practices that companies can benefit from. But what we typically see in terms of personalization is that the companies are benefiting from more traffic on the website, lower bounce rates, and also the candidates are coming in let's say, in higher numbers and usually more well prepared. So they have a better idea about the organization and have provided some information or shared some information about themselves, which are worthwhile for them positioning themselves in the in this recruiting process. Now, in terms of AI, again, there are different applications here. So when we think about AI, it's something that we can use right off the shelf right now with platforms like, for example, Google AdWords or Facebook, when we want to get more traffic onto our job postings, for example. But also it can help us drive more conversion from, let's say, interested people who are visitors to our website to those who are submitting an application. And on the analytics side, I'm a big fan of carrying out, let's say, advanced surveys where we not only get the numbers and the satisfaction numbers, but we really understand what are the drivers of attraction. So what is driving people to come to our organization? How are people satisfied or dissatisfied? What are the underlying reasons behind that? And what is the reason about retention or churn in the organization, employee turnover? So that's where the advanced analytics method can help us tremendously. Again, automation, I personally think about automation as a good way of taking time and cost out of the equation and spending more face time with candidates, so that we don't have to shuffle paper around and spend a lot of time in repetitive tasks, for example. And also it can provide a good continuity and consistency in terms of communication. Again, keep in mind that when people don't hear from you as a potential employer, they are filling in the gaps and make up their mind and potentially terminate or abandon the application process and adopt and accept another offer. So we want to be in constant contact and provide the right information in a timely fashion. Now, this is a lot. I realize that, and it's just the beginning of, let's say, more detailed discussion. So if you have questions about this or you want to have an independent advice, contact us. If you found this information useful and inspiring and you're looking for more, then subscribe to the channel and please leave a like and a comment and share with your colleagues and your business partners in the organization so that you can start having a dialogue about this. And as always, I wish you good luck in finding the right colleagues, the right people in your organization, and betting on the right innovation projects which deliver good results and good impact for your organization. So looking forward to hearing from you, and good luck.